Oh, good afternoon, everyone. It's Carpo here. How y'all doing? Haven't seen you in a while. I guess I never see you. I guess you haven't seen me in a while, for what it's worth. Yeah, I thought I'd make a video here about my trip to Symbiosis, the Eclipse Festival, and just kind of ease back into making videos and talk about some of my experiences. And, you know, it's funny because back in the past few years, every time I go on vacation or any trip anywhere, I love to go just isolate myself somewhere and make a video, you know, for when I return. And this time I didn't do that, and it was probably because, well, a multitude of factors, but one of them being that I'm not quite as, you know, it's not something that I find interest in doing all the time. I used to love making videos. And I'm surprised it actually took me this long to kind of get bored of it. But I'm hoping I still make them. It's just that I have so many other things to do, and I feel like I'm, you know, if it's taking time or if it's an effort, then I don't want to do it. But right now I really want to share this experience because it was crazy, wild. It was the weirdest event I've ever been to. Well, the biggest event. I mean, I've been to Bonnaroo. Not the big festival, but this was different. And Symbiosis is held around the world at different locations. And they've had, I don't know how many eclipses, but they had one in Australia they did a couple of years ago. And they did it here in Oregon because of the eclipse. So they move around, and they're going to do another one in 2020 in Patagonia, I believe. So it's like 30,000 people coming together in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, in my home state of Oregon, near towns like Madras and Prineville, where there are single-lane highways leading into the place and out, and that's it. And let me just tell you, I have been in a lot of traffic. I'm almost 42. I've driven to several places, been back and forth in the craziest, wildest accidents and snowstorms. I have never experienced anything like this in my life. So I get there. First off, I should make sure the camera's going. Yeah, I think it's going. Oh, good. Never can't tell sometimes. So, first off, we take our kids, okay? Now they are 4 and 8. Now my son was 7, and his birthday was on the 20th, the day before the eclipse. So we had his birthday there. So anyhow, they're young, but we wanted them to experience this eclipse with us and this event. So we left home around 2 p.m. I don't know. I want to say around noon. Anyway, it took us about 4 hours to get there from where we live in Portland area. 4 hours to get down out of Prineville, leave the city, and then start driving down this road, and then boom, traffic stopped. After about an hour, we realized it's not just construction. It really is the festival traffic. So here's the thing. We hit the line of cars, and it's totally stopped, and people have just gotten out, and they're hula hooping and riding their bikes around on the road. And after we'd been there for a while, we just resigned ourselves to it. You know, when you first get into traffic, you know, there's one thing if it's moving slowly, but this was a situation where you just sit there with your car off, and you'd roll forward maybe half a mile and then stop for another up to 20 minutes to half an hour. And we were 30 miles out from the event. So imagine being like 25 to 30 miles out and knowing how long it's really going to take if it continues like that. Put it this way, it took us 13 hours in traffic to get 25 miles. And it was the most absurd situation that we've been in. It was, the worst thing about it was that we borrowed a pickup. Now this pickup had a starter problem. You can't turn it off when it's hot. And we only had a half a tank of gas when we got in line, in a big old Ford pickup that we needed to carry all our stuff. Chugga, chugga, chugga. Finally, after I was down to like an eighth of tank, I'm like, I have to start turning it off now. By then we were up in the mountains. We got in line about 4 p.m. So it was about 4 a.m. when we finally got up to the driveway to start turning up. Their computers went down, and they couldn't scan the QR codes on the tickets. They had all kinds of problems with it. And these were early entry tickets, and we were all there early to get in. And now I had to buy these early entries in order to get the car camping pass, because otherwise you have to park like miles away and then hike your shit in. pay some rickshaw driver $50 or something. It's just crazy. I mean, festivals are nuts. There's people wanting to profit left and right off of it. So anyhow, we got in there. We finally got in at 6 a.m., set up our camp, and tried to get like a half an hour of sleep. It was impossible. But then we went on for like 6 days trying, we enjoyed the festival as best we could, having 2 kids considering. Made the mistake of not having a wagon, so our one son, the youngest, always wanted us to carry him everywhere. But we did get out to see String Cheese Incident and Papadocio, and I was able to go out and check a bunch of the art installations out, and got a lot of good recordings on my voice recorder. And for example, Paul Stamets was talking about mushrooms one time, and the kids were hungry, so I just left the recorder going, and then I could come back and listen to it later. But there's all kinds of crazy workshops and, awesome events that went on during that time. But the eclipse itself, I mean, it eclipses everything, no pun intended. It was just amazing. I just never, the emotion that I felt at that moment was just beyond description, as a lot of people who have experienced eclipses know. And some who maybe don't get that same feeling. But for me, just seeing something, being in natural awe like that is just beyond words. And, I made it a point to be straight that day. I didn't take any psychedelics or the night before, and I didn't really smoke any pot or anything like that beforehand. I just was straight, and just the emotion that overwhelmed me was just so amazing. And, and that's not to say, oh, well, you shouldn't take drugs and enjoy an eclipse if that's what you want to do. But what I've realized is that, when you have a psychedelic experience, let's say, or, and you get an emotion out of it, often that emotion is associated with being in that state of mind. I wanted to associate this with clarity, so when I'm in my straight mind, I am completely, I remember that image of the corona of the sun and the little jet off to the right, a little solar flare, and the whole entirety of it, that 2 minutes, was just epic. And sharing it with like 30,000 people. And the interesting thing is that it's not, I like to say like-minded people, but one thing I realized years ago going to Dead shows, when I was younger, I guess decades ago now, was that just because a person wears, a tie-dye and has dreadlocks, doesn't mean that they're, let's say, a hippie or a free love type person, or you can't define a person by what they wear or how they look. There were the tour rats, we called them, and they went from show to show. Not just the people who followed the Grateful Dead, but the tour rats who made it a point to, steal and rip people off, selling bunk acid, things like that through the years. And that continued on, and there's still people like that. And at Symbiosis, one thing I found was that, things don't really change much. The one thing that did change was that I see hardly anybody smoking cigarettes anymore. That's kind of off topic, but I find it really interesting that at concerts and festivals and shows that people really aren't smoking much anymore. And, not even vaping, which is kind of one of my, guilts, but... So I'm not sure really what to talk about, because the event was so big and there was so much going on. There was a lake there, and they had the Sun Temple on the other side of the lake, and I posted a video with a lot of the pictures with the info. But, coming back from it, it's funny, I didn't even buy anything for myself. They've got all these, trendy, hoods and cool utility belts for, the hippie lifestyle that are ridiculously priced, like $200 or $160 for a hoodie. The only thing I bought was this scarf. It's the one with the eyeballs that, gradually. I got this and another one because it was my son's birthday, so I wanted to buy him. He wanted a fractal scarf, so they're like, buy 2 and you get like these 3 stickers free, which I posted a video about earlier. And there's really cool like 3-way stickers. So I figured, I just show a couple of the things. This is the this is the schedule for it, and that's just half of it. This is the other half of the schedule. There were like 300 something acts. It was just absurd the amount of stuff that they had going on. But I did buy some of this honey from this small vendor, and it's funny because I paid $20 for this little jar of honey. Beautiful. It's almost gone now, but it's from Colorado, which is where they're from. And I bought it because I'm supporting a small vendor, a local vendor. Whereas some of these places, they mass produce this stuff for like festivals and raves, and then go to sell it at the festivals. You know, having local people sell it, but they're huge companies, and charging way too much for their stuff. The one thing that I really found cool was, oh, before I forget, the necklace I'm wearing here, I got it from Blaze. When I got back from vacation, I had a little package from one of my subscribers, and he sent me all this really awesome shit, dude. So thanks, man. It was cool. Actually, it looks like this has some jasper on it, which matches this other necklace that I had, and then I put on this little Flower of Life thing that he gave me too, so right on. So this is called a Toro Flux, and my oldest son, who's 22, he gave it to my younger son on his birthday, and it's just a single piece of metal. It springs outwards like that. So you take it, you twist your hands like that. You can pop it onto your hand, and this thing will roll up and down your arm. Now you can take it, and you can pass it to somebody else. Kind of crawls down your arm. So what I did was I designed this half a hula hoop thing, and I have it between my hands, and then I can roll it between them, and I'm kind of playing around with it, and it's fun. But it's just funny because they were selling these down there, and somebody was saying that they were like $100 or something, and I don't know how much they were really selling them for, but these are like $7, $8 online. And that's the problem, is people who are dishonest, and I guess that's the thing about festivals, is that there's always people who want to charge as much as they possibly can, you know. And, you know, the one thing that was interesting is they had a Kratom bar there. It wasn't open till the last day, and we're like, you know, 5 days in. We left like a day and a half early because it was just too much. I mean, the dust was just absolutely insane, which that didn't bother me too much. It was mainly that we were all tired. The kids we'd missed a lot of the good shows we wanted because they didn't give you a schedule until you got in. So nobody knew who was playing when. You couldn't plan anything out. So you're already there. You're exhausted trying to figure out who you want to see. And all the people we wanted to see played after midnight. And the festival was so huge, you had to walk a couple miles to get to the stage. So overall, we had a great time. And because of that eclipse, if there were no eclipse, it may have been a little disappointing. But as we were sitting there camping, these people, because basically a camp like that, you kind of set up wherever you want. There's no direction for camping. And you would think that it would be chaos and there'd be a lot of empty spaces, but it doesn't work that way. Self-directed camping means self-directed camping. You pull in and there's a huge lot, you go wherever you want. So you can outskirts or pack yourself in as close as you want. So we set up kind of, you know, near other people, but in our own little spot. By morning, it had like filled up, and these other people came in and they wanted to camp in this little space we'd saved for our friends. The other half of our group, which was coming later. And we said, well, go ahead. You know, if they want to come, they can set up somewhere else over here. So we let these people set up and tie into our camp, and they were really cool people. This girl, there was Nat and Kaz and Tommy and or Thomas. I can't remember the other guy's name. I think 2 guys were from Ireland, and the 2 girls were from Australia. And all different ages. Kaz was like I think she was in her 60s. And she was like hitchhiking to Reno afterwards. Cute old lady, had like great stories to tell in that Australian accent. And I'll tell you, Aussies really are the friendliest damn people. And there were a ton of Australians there. And I believe that's just because Symbiosis went to Australia, and so many people were enamored by that eclipse they saw there. They wanted to continue and go see another one at the same type of event. And who could blame you? I want to go now to Patagonia in 2020 and thinking about it. But anyhow, the people set up, tied up camp to us, and they were very patient with us because we had our kids who wanted to talk to them, talk their ears off. And I know that you want to have an experience without kids bugging you, so we had to keep them, you know, keep them from harassing them too much. So it was Emerson's birthday, my son, and we gave him a few things that we'd brought for him, a little MP3 player and some other stuff. And then this guy comes over, Tommy from the next door, and he's like, hey, Emerson, I want to give you something. And he like pulls this out, and he'd been showing him this thing earlier in the day. It's one of those contact juggling balls. So, you know, this one isn't really one of the, whatever they call them. I can't remember, the fushigi or something. Those have like a metal sphere in the center or something, and they're easier to break. This is just a regular acrylic ball. So anyhow, he gave him that, and it's something he'd had for a long time. It has scratches. It's like something he was, not something he just bought. It's something he had for a really long time. And it was just the coolest thing to see someone, give away something like that to my son, something that meant something to them because they wanted a kid to have a good birthday. And the ball itself is really a little, I think it's probably too big for him, but he'll work into it. But anyhow, the whole experience itself was, I don't know. How do you describe something like that? It's like that many people in one location, all united, maybe not on the same exact goals or the same even interests. And that's the thing. They're, all different types of people. But you didn't see any major fights, no big problems. It was calm, and everybody got along. And that's what it's about. It's the symbiosis between us. But it's not for everyone, an event like that. I mean, the music goes 24 hours a day. At 6 in the morning as the sun's coming up, there's boom, 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 and it never stops. And you might not be used to that. Like, I go to the regional Burns out here, Burning Man, but other events I've gone to aren't like that. They're quiet at night, or they have quiet hours. It's just, there are going to be some people who want to dance at 4 in the morning, loaded out of their mind, or even not. But others who don't, or who want to go at night instead, and or the evening, or the morning, afternoon, whatever. And that's the thing, being able to understand that different groups have their own interests. When I'm out in the daytime with my family, some people are asleep. So to each his own. It's kind of a matter of just realizing that we are all different and have different needs. But there is that element of people who take too many drugs and get too fucked up, put themselves in dangerous situations, or don't drink enough water, or take too much Molly, or whatever it might be. You gotta leave that aside and just say whatever. They'll grow up, hopefully, and figure that out. I didn't take a psychedelic the whole time I was there, which was kind of interesting for me, because usually I will, but I don't know. Life is an epic journey, and I'm finding there's more of a nostalgia relating to taking psychedelics than the actual benefit of taking psychedelics. Like, you remember things, you remember how fun it was to take mushrooms with your friends, or LSD, or, the feeling of serotonin rush under ecstasy, but then you do it and you're like, okay, that was okay, but what's the point? And the point is to be able to carry that into your daily life. That's something that I've really worked on processing over the years. I'm not interested in taking psychedelics to become... that honey is so good. Sorry. I can't resist. It's delicious. When I was younger, I took a lot of LSD with my friends, and when we went to Dead shows, we'd always, trip, and I remember seeing this purple haze over the crowd and everything, and just feeling of unity and oneness, and you never forget those things. But eventually you have to grow up and realize that while the mysteries of the unknown are so romantic and attractive, occult knowledge, for example, becomes so, an obsession for some people. They want to know the mysteries. They want to understand, the secrets of time. And it's only been in the last recent year or so when I've really started to see that there's a reason why we have our senses. That the universe, or God, whatever you want to call it, isn't playing a trick on us in hiding things from us that we're supposed to discover, but rather, if that's what you choose to do, so be it. But embracing these senses, the senses that we're given, what you might call God-given. I'm not a religious person, but I believe that nature has a plan, let's just say. Maybe not even a plan, but rather that there's a blueprint that's being followed that's open to interpretation. And we've kind of come to this point now where humans, a lot of humans, are starting to understand the importance of community again and connection to one another. I mean, those are the type of people who you see talking in these groups, you know, at these events like this, talking about sustainability, permaculture, fixing our planet and helping the future, and not putting up with the bullshit that we see around us where people are pretending like nothing's happening. But at the same time, I have to realize that some of these classes and groups are, you know, over the top, you know, ludicrous, talking about, you know, trying to understand crystal powers as if, you know for fact that certain things work. And I'm not dissing crystals. That's maybe not the best example. I love crystals. In fact, I got one in my pocket. I think that stones hold great power, but that the user imparts a lot of that into it, but that they do have a vibrational energy. And but my point is that when they, you know, there are a lot of people in the New Age community who pretend like they know what they're talking about. They sound like religious nuts. And so I only mention that to say that there is an element that it's the combination of the New Agers who make claims that, you know, they're unsure about, and that element of those lot rats or the tour rats or whatever you want to call them, festy rats, I guess, who make all hippies look bad because they have tie-dye and dreadlocks. I've learned that, you know, the most understanding, you know, some of the deepest rooted hippies, you might call them, you know, might wear shorts and a tucked-in shirt because they don't give a damn about appearance to you anymore. They don't have to wear tie-dyes or prove themselves. You don't have to be a guru. And the reason I mention it is because there's so many people who have a negative image of the hippie movement. There's so many people out there who are kind of like, probably the locals who are like, oh, all these damn hippies coming into our town, you know, even though of course they're making money off of it, whatnot, but that's not the point. The point is that most of these people are good people. Even in traffic for 13 hours, I didn't see anybody yelling, and I didn't hear one horn honk. I mean, it was absolutely, you know, I didn't even think about it at the time because those are the type of people who, they know what to expect. They've come to that event with the expectation of, it's going to take a while, we got to all work together, and to me that's a very attractive thing. I see a way to take accountability for the situation that we've put ourselves into as human beings. That we don't have to just say, well, our parents screwed up the planet, therefore, well, it is what it is, or to completely ignore anything that's going on. Nor can we just sit there and be defeatist and say, look, we screwed the whole planet up and we're doomed. It's a matter of just saying we can work together as a community to live better lives and to help one another, and hopefully that will reflect itself in the activities and decisions that we make as a whole. And maybe democracy can be repaired, but it's going to require education on everyone's part. And it's events like that that give me a little bit of hope that it's still possible. So I enjoyed myself thoroughly, and what else? Anything else to say about the event? I can't. I could go on and on and on. I mean, it was just very different, I guess. You'd have to be there to understand. So I had a phenomenal time. I'll talk to y'all later, and have a wonderful day.